I will talk a little bit about what you can expect here in this part. So we're going to understand how Microsoft operates. We're going to understand what you can negotiate, how to successfully prepare for your negotiation, our tips and tricks in regards to that. And finally, we will discuss some examples and have a little discussion. What is important to understand when you talk to Microsoft is how they operate. What we see a lot, for instance, is that companies say, but I'm just a small fish in a very big pond for Microsoft. Well, we're here to tell you that that's not true. And that is because you don't understand how Microsoft operates. It's a revenue-generating company that has to give responsibility to the market, to their shareholders, to everyone around them. And the way they do that is they set up these in very large enriched account teams to service you as the end customer of Microsoft. Now, why is that important? Because to the entirety of Microsoft, an organization with more than 100,000 employees, you might be a small fish. But if we look at the people that service your account, you are a very big fish. So usually your account team consists of an account executive, an account technology strategist, and a whole battery of other people. And they all have one goal, is satisfy their target that they have for the year. And they want to make that goal a possibility. So the way they do that, obviously, is by trying to sell you as much as they possibly can. They try to find common ground. Where are you interested in? What areas of their portfolio are interesting to them, etc., etc. So if you look at it from that perspective, then you know that Microsoft might be very big, but your account team is very small. And your very small account team has one singular goal, is make sure that they get their bonus at the end of the year. So everyone from account executives to account technology strategists, people working in the Microsoft Services department, all the solution specialists that you might be aware of, like Modern Workplace, Dynamics 365, Azure, etc. They all have their individual targets, and they all have that responsibility to their management to make sure that you, as a customer of Microsoft, spend as much money on them instead of other IT companies. And if you go into your negotiation from that perspective, then you know one thing for sure is you're not a small fish. You are a very big whale, and they want to grab that potential from you. So the way they set it up is on screen here. The way that Microsoft operates is usually the larger you are as a company, the less companies and account executive services. So it's dependent on company size. So it might be that the account executive that you talk to, or the commercial executive even that you talk to, has about 20 accounts in its portfolio. But it might also be, if you're, for instance, a Fortune 500 company, that there's a single focus for that account executive on your account and solely your account. You can use that to your benefit as well. Because if you know that, for instance, then you can negotiate from a position of strength as well by realizing that if they don't get the money from you as their only account, that they might not make their target. But if they don't make that target on your account and they have 19 other accounts, then they might be able to compensate somewhere else. So you can also check then what the importance is for them. So if they're very hungry, if they're very keen, that must mean they need that income from you. If they're not very keen, they might already be sitting good and they're like, well, we'll see what happens. We can position this into the new year, blah, blah, blah. Then you know, okay, those guys must already do very well this year and don't require any more revenue from you.
Yeah. Well, and strange but true, it will affect your negotiation, because if they already hit their target, they probably will be more dominant in the negotiation.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. So that's important to understand. The key takeaway here, well, again, is the amount of people that service your account. They all have individual targets with individual check marks. So an account executive might be compensated on the entire revenue that they need to do for the year. And a solution specialist for the Modern Workplace might just be interested in selling you, for instance, the Microsoft 365 E5 suite and barely anything else. So whoever is your counterparty in these discussions, you should try and get a grasp of what they are interested in. The next part of this is if you can't come to agreement with the account team that you have in your Microsoft organization, then it's important to start looking at the alternatives. And that is why multi-level selling is important and where that comes in. So what we mean by that is if your first line contact, so your account manager or your commercial executive, doesn't give you the deal that you require, you can always go to other levels above the account executive and negotiate and try and get what you want from them at that moment in time. So we've created an overview and we'll put that on the screen where you will see what the next steps are in your negotiation journey with Microsoft. So from the first line contact, again, account manager or commercial executive, if they can't come to an agreement with you, then you can go to their manager, for instance, or even better, go for their local higher management. So skip some levels if you think that might not be beneficial to you, especially if you're a larger account. The higher you go, the more becomes possible. So the third level might be a local or higher management. That might be the enterprise operating unit lead, for instance, or the government lead if you're a governmental institution. You want to negotiate there. How do you get there? It's very simple. You just tell the first line contact that you're not confident in this discussion anymore, and that you like to talk to a superior of them because you can't get to a mutual beneficial agreement with them. They will come to the table. They will obviously be compensated differently. So also you need to feel out what their triggers are and how to get from them what you want.
Yeah. And that might even help because like we said in the last example, it might be that an account manager or a commercial executive already is on target, but the senior management level isn't. And we know for a fact, we work there, that if you have achieved your target, you're more relaxed than you have not.
Yeah.
And it might be that the local management team or even higher within Microsoft has not achieved their target, and therefore could be that they are more keen on negotiating with you. Right?
Yeah.
So that will help you.
And that goes up the chain, right? So the only thing, and that's the final piece of this, where it becomes different is when you come to the final level, expert level, as we like to call it as well, when you start to negotiate with the business desk or BD, and above that, even senior leadership of Microsoft. Like there's people that negotiate, for instance, with Satya Nadella and his direct reports as well. Yeah. If you're there, that's a whole different ball game. You would potentially need some very good legal people as well to help you there. So that's different. But the BD, it's not too difficult. It's just important to understand their perspective. So from their perspective, the business desk is there to safeguard that they don't do anything that creates a precedent that has never ever before have been given within the Microsoft world. And they report straight into the finance organization. So in that organization, they need to maintain that level of scrutiny. So they need to make sure that if they give something, that it doesn't open up a can of worms that everybody says like, oh, I've seen that happen there. Yeah. I'd like to have that as well. Thank you very much. And knowing that makes it interesting to negotiate with them because they look at it from a very different perspective. The whole revenue aspect, the whole I need to make my target aspect of things is completely out the window. And you're there discussing things like, okay, these legal terms or and this discount can't be given because then I'm selling this product at a loss. So it's a whole different discussion that you're going to come into, and it might make things a lot clearer for you, but it might also
work against you also.
Make it at a difficult level because it becomes an expert game of chess instead of discussing someone's revenue target. Mm-hmm.
So the BD, now known business desk nowadays, is especially for larger clients, global clients, are also joining in the negotiations. So it's not only the commercial executive and the account manager anymore, but they're also joining the negotiation table. And often that changes the perspective. It gets more formal and it gets more difficult to negotiate, basically.
Yeah, agree.
As you can see on the next slide, what are you able to negotiate? Well, basically everything. It's just about what you want to achieve and how you want to position it to Microsoft. You can negotiate on often what we see is that everyone wants to negotiate on discount. Well, this is typically something we not recommend you to do, but we will get to that later. You can ask for T's and C's. You can ask basically for everything with Microsoft, but it's also depending on, is Microsoft willing to grant you that? Are they willing to give you the concession you need? Often they will say they are not able to give you the concession, but the truth is often different. They say, no, we can't, but we know for a fact that they can, but they're just not willing to give it. And that's a different story. And that's also difficult if you don't have an expert on board to assess whether what they're saying is true. And that's where I think also is the added value in. So what you always should do, preparation is key for your negotiation. Prepare on what you want to negotiate. Think of the things you want to get for certain in your deal. And we're going to get through the points now. So first, discount. And this is always a bit difficult now, discount, because typically we see that every deal that Microsoft offers is without discount. They always will start with M365 E5 without discount. And it's becoming more and more difficult because we see the market changing. Companies are adopting the cloud. They are willing to invest in cloud technology. And therefore, Microsoft is not willing to give you that discount anymore. If you are deployed in the cloud and you are basically adopting everything, it will become more difficult to negotiate that discount. Investments on what Microsoft considers strategic technology are still eligible for discount. But it basically means that you will have to invest millions in technology you do not require from day one in order to get a discount. So you should be well prepared in order to assess whether you will need it in that matter. Another tendency we see is flexibility. Basically, subscription model from Microsoft was always a model where you would pay per month, per year. They're now changing that. They are forcing companies again to go for company-wide commitments in order to get discounts. So with regards to flexibility, we see that Microsoft is changing their behavior. It's not so common anymore to have an EA where you can upscale every year and downscale every year. Basically, they are pushing you into a model where you have a fixed commitment for 3 or 5 years even, and you cannot upscale and downscale. That applies if you want an aggressive discount. If you're willing to waive the discount and focus more on the TCO, so pay what you actually need and assess what you actually need and upscale and downscale every year as you want to, basically you can save a lot of money with that. But what we typically see is that everyone is very focused on having that big discount in front of them. So what we basically recommend you is to take a step back, look at your total spend you are spending on Microsoft, and assess what your plan is towards the future. Make sure that you are really buying what you need and do not overspend in that matter. Another thing we recommend to keep in our enterprise agreements is applying a price lock, because you've seen in the past 2 years, Microsoft has been increasing their prices rapidly. They do not call it price increases, but basically it's just a simple price increase. And they are planning to do more in the coming years. So if you lock a product on your price sheet, you at least have the certainty that you will have the same price for 3 years. So that's something we would really recommend our clients to do. Lock as much products as you can on the product sheet. So in the next slide, we're gonna talk about how to prepare your EA renewal. From my perspective, 80% of the result in your negotiation is the preparation phase. This is incredibly important. If you're not well prepared, you will never get a good result. You might be feeling that you have a good result because you bought a lot of stuff from Microsoft and you did get that high discount, but that does not mean that you have a good deal. So having said that, first item is start early. Typically, we recommend clients to prepare 12 to 15 months. Practice is often different. So we have been helping clients since 3 months ahead of the expiration date, but also 2 weeks recently. So that's we have a quick fix for that, but it's not what you want as a client. You should be well prepared if you want to professionally do the negotiation and go through all the phases to ensure you are doing the best for you and your organization. Again, start early. And then the second part is, what are we using now? And that's often very difficult to assess. A lot of clients have bought something like Flexera or Snow which takes quite an implementation to finish. And then they have some insights on what they're using. But do you really know what you are using from your suite? And this is a question we see a lot of clients struggling with. So often it's basically impossible to assess what components are you using within the M365 suite. That takes a lot of fact-finding in order to determine what you really need. And why is that so important? Well, if you are buying M365 E5 now, and you are basically not using all of the components, it might be that with a componentized deal without discount may be cheaper than just buying the M365 E5 suite. And even though if you don't want to have the componentized deal, it might be a good leverage to use in your negotiation with Microsoft. So that's why we focus on the preparation, not even to maybe buy that componentized deal, but just to make sure you have some negotiation leverage left in your negotiation. Third item is project planning. Why? Well, first for yourself to have clarity on when you will finalize your negotiation, but also to manage Microsoft because they have their own will and plan to go through your negotiation, to go through your organization, go to your CIO, go to your CFO even. They have a whole path developed. And if you have Microsoft involved in that project planning and make rules of engagement on how you want to work with each other, that often gives a lot of rest and clarity within your organization. So do that, because if you do that, it will give you control of the negotiation. Therefore, we always say, take the lead in that negotiation and share the rules with Microsoft of the negotiation. Because if Microsoft does not get what they want, they will go to someone else. And often we see, of course, procurement leading the negotiation. But Microsoft is not ashamed to go to your CRO and escalate and ask for the different terms and conditions than you want. So put that fish on the table, tell them what the rules of engagement are, and make them also respect that. So it's very important to emphasize that point. Discounts, yeah. Discount is something you have to earn. You will not get it by default. They will always start with no discount. Only case Microsoft will give you discount is basically if you buy things they want you to buy. That's the only case they will give you a discount. If you are buying the technology you already using and requiring, you will not get that discount because you are a long-lasting, faithful client of Microsoft. You will only get it if you earn it, meaning you are buying technology you have not been using in the past, and therefore you should really be investigating internally. Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to invest that money into Microsoft, not knowing if we're gonna be successful with it, not knowing what 2 or 3 years ahead will bring us? So focus on that. Be very clear on your requirements.
So what would you say to an organization that knows their own requirements very well and it isn't, for instance, M365 E5, on how to still secure a discount?
Difficult. Basically, we said we had that one client that was very aggressive. That could be a way. If you know how Microsoft operates and you are willing to fight for your discount, then you might be able to achieve the same discount or a few % lower than the current discount. But if you're not willing to go that walk and you have been deploying in the cloud and you are an M365 E3 client with some security components and you are using the stuff you basically require, to be honest, it's mission impossible to get the same discount. You have to get the trick book out, do international stuff. So, and what that means, if your organization has different branches in different countries, you can try to see what's possible in other countries. You can try to investigate whether you go to CSP. That could be an option. Again, there are possibilities. To be very transparent, if you are deployed in the cloud and you are using all of the technology, optimization is your only key to reduce your costs. A good example for item 5, discount and concessions are always determined on a case-by-case basis. So you have to earn it. And if you are using E3, deploy it on E3, you will not get that discount. If you are on E3, you have ambition to go to E5, you want to invest in Dynamics, you want to invest in Copilot, let's not forget that one. That has been very actual. Then you will get your discount. But Other than that, no. So therefore, you always should be very clear towards Microsoft about that ambition as well. If you are not willing to invest in Dynamics, if you are not willing to invest in Copilot, just stay to that and just keep your story. Because if you are being very clear and transparent, it will help you in being a reliable negotiation partner and get a good result in the end. And then also some tips and tricks what I want to share with you, because we've seen clients making that mistake so many times, is don't tell them the discount you're aiming for. Because basically, if you share that with them, you will not get it. You will not get it. Trade-offs, big no-no. Because like the E3 case, let's say you have 1,000 users deployed in the M365 E3 cloud, and you are willing to invest in Copilot for 1,000 users, but you don't need them for 1,000 users. You need them for 100 users. Microsoft will say, well, if you invest for 1,000, you can put you in a commit model. Then we will get you the discount company-wide. But again, having said that, in the end, it will be cheaper just to buy your E3 against list price, investigate different price options like CSP, like buying in another country, and then just pay as you go for the Copilot licenses.
Yeah, so in this scenario, when we talk about negotiation 101, we're not saying do that, create that win-win scenario by buying those Copilot licenses. What a solution would be is investigate what level of comfort do you have with those Copilot licenses, right?
Yeah.
So if Microsoft says, oh, you don't get that discount if you don't buy 1,000 Copilot licenses, then you can go back into your own organization and check, well, we don't need 1,000, but what about 100? What about 20? What number do we feel comfortable with to give back to Microsoft as that finding that common ground, creating that win-win situation?
Correct.
So with a trade-off, we don't mean super aggressive investments in Microsoft technology. No, we mean then you know what Microsoft wants from you. So investigate what you can give them on that front.
Yeah.
Don't just blindly accept it and be like, okay, if I get that discount, then fine, let's go ahead.
Having said that, also persona profiling could help with that. Let me give you an example. The municipalities in the Netherlands, they have a framework in which they have the choice to choose M365 E3, M365 E5, but also the F plans are included. So typically see that a lot of municipalities are just buying M365 E5 for everyone. But your municipality is not organized in a way where everyone should require the same license. So you have people working, of course, in the town hall, working on projects. They have a laptop like us. They might require the M365 E3, E5 license. But there are also a lot of people within the municipality that have an outdoor job, that are working in the parks, for instance. They don't need that license. So persona profiling helps you in optimizing your licensing requirements. And within the case of the municipalities, there is a framework in place. So that's your only plan to reduce your cost in that aspect. So don't go for one size fits all, because there are just a few companies that require the same license for everyone. And often what we get back is, well, it's very difficult to maintain several profiles within our organization. It makes it difficult to assign licenses. The business case is always worth it to apply persona profiling. So that's something I would recommend all our clients to do. In this slide, we're going to show you how our ideal Microsoft EA renewal process looks like. So after the kickoff, where you want to assess when is a project successful for you as a client, because when we work, we always ask that to our clients, when is the project successful for you? Because we have our view and opinion on how you should lead that. But it's also important to, of course, assess what do you want to get out of that negotiation. And with that, we always focus on the preparation phase. 80%, like I said, of the success is in the preparation. So we always first start with checking what has been happening in the past. Make a license entitlement analysis. Make an effective license positioning, what you are actually using. And also, very important, what is the usage of your online services currently? Do you have any users that has been a site that's not been available for everyone? Stuff like that needs to be assessed. You really need to focus on the actual usage and see what you are using now. With our method, we have developed a way where we can do that very rapidly with our own tool. But if you are not having a tool, you should do that acquisition. Really look into how many users do we have, how many users have been logging in the past 90 days, what kind of technology are they using, something we should focus on. And from your experience, Floris, what are the pitfalls there in that topic?
Many different things. Like we see a lot of organizations that just keep expanding their total license amount in a way that's not feasible after a while anymore. They just, we're out of licenses, let's buy some more. What you should do is look into, do I still have licenses that are assigned to users that don't need to have that license anymore? Basically, check for activity within your organization. You can easily check if any of your users that you have not logged in or signed into the M365 services for over months. And we sometimes find users that have, well, in a previous case that I was dealing with, there were users in that environment that didn't have any login activity since 2020. So they've been paying for that user for 4 years. It's just not using that service. They also discontinue access to certain services. Like if they block an account, they don't take back the license. And it's just sitting there idle. That user cannot do anything anymore, but you're still paying for that license. So these are very easy, low-hanging fruit type things that you can investigate, claim back those licenses, and even give them back to Microsoft. So this is where you want to do a thorough review and optimize that environment to its full potential.
So basically, by doing that, even before you go to negotiation phase, you can already save on your bill of material.
So in certain cases, we find that organizations with, for instance, the one I was just talking about, they have around 6,000 licenses. They can take back more than 600. So that's 10% of your license count. And then if you know that they assign more than one service to that user, that quickly ramps up to, well, an insane amount of money that you can give back to Microsoft.
And that argument emphasizes how important that preparation phase is.
That is the most important.
So from that phase where we have been collecting all of that information, you also want to look ahead to the future and see with your architects what your strategy is towards the future to make a proper bill of material and also to determine what could be your BATNA. If we go for the BATNA, it would be the lowest configuration possible you want to negotiate. But alternatively, you want to look ahead to the future and see what you could potentially invest in that will give you benefit from it and use that into your negotiation. And then you will come to a phase where you want to achieve your BATNA and you want to put alternatives, scenarios to it to see what that could be, ending up in the negotiation phase, the cost modeling phase. When that's done, you go to the final stage. 80% of the work is done and you are doing the negotiation. Are you deployed in the cloud and is your BATNA the same level as you currently having? You are using E3, you want to go ahead with E3. It will be a very short and simple negotiation because you will probably get no discount at all. But if you have in your cost modeling alternatives where you want to invest in Dynamics, Copilot, and all other strategic Microsoft technology, then you could have a very good negotiation. Also important, benchmarking. So, and this is something that pops up recently now at our stage. A lot of people are going to Gartner nowadays and they check, is this within the benchmark? And we've seen some of those examples, and they are really not making any sense. And so we've been offering that a lot. And what we see is there are a lot of price changes within market segments, especially, for instance, in the Netherlands, in the retail sector, where you see that one retailer is getting a dollar discount than another retailer. And basically they have bought the same stuff. They just run a different strategy towards Microsoft. One with the low discount is embracing Microsoft, and Microsoft is almost running around there on a daily basis. And the other one is really pushing Microsoft away. But funny fact is that the client that is pushing Microsoft away actually has better terms and conditions than the other one. So yeah, that makes sense. Do your benchmark. Check if you are having the proper conditions for your enterprise agreement.
So you're not a fan of Gartner?
No, I'm not a fan of Gartner because...
So how would you propose that a organization would get their benchmark?
Yeah, basically reaching out to us, because we have all the information in place. And within Gartner, you will just get what we call the open door. They will just tell you, oh, you were in this range and probably you are good. That does not help you.
Because it's always a case-by-case basis.
It's always a case-by-case cases. So no, I'm not a fan of that in any aspect, because it's not adding any value. Yeah, and we have that benchmark information where we can help our clients. So if clients see this and want to do a benchmark, yes, we do that as well. Final part of the negotiation is reviewing the paperwork. Microsoft, although offering the newest technology, are offering your contracts based upon technology that's more than 30 years old. And it takes time for them to complete the paperwork. And we see that's still a manual task. Often there are mistakes made in the paperwork. So review your agreements, because once signed and once processed, Microsoft probably will tell you not to adjust that one again.